I'm MVP. Yes, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I guess maybe it ties in with like you know how you're sitting around the break room and everybody's smoking and joking and talking crap to one another, and it's I always tell people if they don't, you know, new people, if they don't talk shit to you, it means they don't like you. But if they are talking shit to you, it means they like you. I guess it sort of applies in a way to that. Yeah, I guess if you had a whole shop full of people and you walk out there and say, "Hey, good morning, everybody," even though it's the fifth weekend in a row, and everybody goes, you know, if everybody doesn't go, hey, good morning, and also go F yourself, or if they just sit there in silence and don't respond at all, the silence and no response at all would be more concerning to me. I'd be like, oh boy, people are about to start doing stuff. Yeah. The philosophy of Stoicism. Yeah. Well, think about in your careers where you know you've seen a heated argument, lots of hand gestures, lots of shouting, various octave levels and obscenities being said. But the other person in that argument remains calm and collected the whole time. And they come back at that person and shut them down only with facts. Never show concern. They never show fear. They never show anger. They listen to what's being said, which is one of the key principles of Stoicism is to listen to understand, not to listen to respond. And so with that, and you look at that person and go, my God, how did they keep it together? But they command that situation. Being stoic in that situation, you command it. If you, by the time you start showing your emotion, you've already lost, right? Sure. Where you've heard, don't lower yourself to their level, right? So once you do that, you've already lowered yourself. You've lost the high ground. Right. Initiate. Yeah. So let me tie in with you there about the mindset, the stoicism mindset. Okay. Talking about, you mentioned, decision making and all that. And sorry to cut you off, Six, but I wanted to interject this here because I think it ties in with the route you're going. The Stoicism is a mindset based on a set of observations about how the mind and world works. Stoics argue that your thoughts and your beliefs create the world you inhabit, not external circumstances. So you ought to take responsibility for your mind. So, regardless of what's happening around you, you have the ability to change it. And we know in working in the aviation and working in hangars that a lot, some things are out of our control, but you can do the best that you can with the information you have at that time. You can make the situation work for you. You can say, hey, uh, they come back and say, hey, we need this jet ready, in the next 30 minutes. Okay, well, you gave me zero notice, but let me see what I can do. And you bust your butt and you prioritize and you get things done, and you got the job done, right? You got that jet ready. And guess what? A storm front rolls in and cancels the flight, and flight ops and whatever else is losing their mind, but they're not losing it at you because you controlled your situation. You prioritized, you took the initiative, you made things happen to get the job done that you needed done. And ultimately, it didn't work out, but for factors that were not in your control. Hmm. Yeah, like you said, if maintenance comes in, control comes in, and waving their arms, flailing around like the wacky waving inflatable flailing arm tube man, if you respond in kind, you've already lost, right? And when control came to that with that mindset and attitude as well, they had already lost their situation too. But don't fall into the same trap as them. Take the facts, hear what they're saying, and between all the chaff and chatter, oh, plane ready by this time. Boom. Okay, got it. Yeah. So one of the first principles of Stoicism is wisdom. Okay, or sometimes referred to as prudence. But this virtue of Stoicism is important for distinguishing the differences between the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Being able to make these distinctions is important in making sound judgments and logical decisions in a practical, considered way rather than acting with passion or impulse. So there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So this ties in with the second principle of Stoicism, and that is courage. And that is to remain strong and in control of your emotions, no matter what life has to throw at you. Now, there's subcategories to this courage: endurance, confidence, high-mindedness, cheerfulness, and industriousness. And the common theme amongst all of those is to remain positive and productive in adversity. Uh, the courage side of this is not about eliminating fear, but rather accepting it and pushing through with endurance and resilience. Obviously, that's easier said than done, but it's not about. What I find interesting is we all seek ways to eliminate the fear in our day. How can I avoid this difficult task? How can I avoid working on the can bird in the back? How can I do all these things? How can I eliminate that fear out of my life? The cool part about this and the stoicism aspect is that it's telling you don't eliminate it, accept it, and drive through it. And you come out stronger on the other side, which is pretty interesting. Because I am number one. I'll admit right now, I am number one for trying to eliminate hardships, which equal fear and all that from my life, in personal and professional. I will do what's necessary to avoid adverse situations, and not always a great spot to try to be in, because obviously sometimes you create more problems than you would have had if you'd have just hit it head on. So, kind of something to think about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. So the next one is temperance. Temperance, it's about moderation, acting with restraint, self-control, and discipline. Regulating your emotions rather than being swept up in the heat of the moment. Now, there is subdivisions of temperance, which are good discipline, seemliness, modesty, self-control, and self-control. Sorry. The act of self-regulation can refer to any part of your life, but it's really about controlling one's bad habits, such as overeating, drinking too much. This last one, how about this? Or wallowing in a pool of pity or despair. Now, I know I'm guilty of that. Woe is me. Boo hoo. Feel bad for me. Six has heard many of those boo hoo moments out of me, and he's been there for it, and I appreciate it. But I need to practice some of this temperance, right? Okay. Use the wisdom, use the courage and this temperance to get myself out of that. Okay, I'm doing this. This didn't happen as I wanted it to or as I thought it should. Don't get emotionally overcharged with it. Reel yourself in, collect your thoughts, figure out why it didn't work out the way you wanted to. And then you can start moving on from there and taking the steps to better yourself. So when that situation arises again, you're more prepared to handle it. And I'm speaking of personal experiences. Again, like I said, Six has been there for most of it. Yeah, I would agree to that. That's initial response, right? Is the something unjustified happened to you, and your initial response is anger. And if you say you don't respond to things that way, I'm going to call you a liar, or have never. I guess say don't respond, but if you have never responded to something that way, yeah, yeah, snatching lips right from a face. Those are great ones. Or they say your vision goes red, which that's I think that's even more scary than somebody who's showing the rage, openly showing rage. Yeah. Right. Right. So there was a Stoic philosopher, a Roman Stoic philosopher, Musonius Rufus, and he said to honor equality, to want to do good, and for a person being human to not want to harm human beings. This is the most honorable lesson, and it makes just people out of those who learn it. However, we've talked a lot about controlling your emotions. This and that. You say, "Geez, seems a very one-sided coin. Everybody else gets to act a certain way, express themselves, and I'm showing restraint on my end, but still dealing with a clown on the other." And that's going to happen in life. Don't get us wrong. But Stoicism or Stoics also believe in the power of distribution. Now, that is the dishing out to others exactly what they deserve. This can be real positive, making sure people are treated with dignity and respect, but it can also be about making sure, in this case, it says criminals get their due. But those who want to act a certain way get their same on their end. So that kind of ties in with what Six was saying a little bit. Hey, Six is treating me with respect. I'm going to treat him with respect and dignity, and all this and that. However, if I come at Six one day and just am acting like a straight jackass, and he's embodying all these principles of stoicism, and he's being the stoic in the conversation, over time, when his actions don't improve mine, right? Because that's also one of the things of stoicism is showing that calmness in adverse situations. Hopefully, it will bring the mass together. People go, "Oh, wow, that's how they're handling it. Let me get on board with that." Right? It's sort of that a collaborative effort like that. But you're going to get some who refuse to change their ways, and you're gonna return in kind. You want to act like a jackass? Let's go down that path. You want to play stupid? I'll win. Right. Yeah, for sure. No, that was just the four. I mean, Stoicism's a pretty deep dive for those who are interested. I would suggest, and this is kind of how I got into it, but I was watching some YouTube videos, but uh, Marcus Aurelius is considered one of the last, considered the last of the five great Roman emperors. And he's probably the most famous Stoic. And he kind of wrote down sort of his biography as he was going through his time as a Roman emperor. But these became known as meditations today, right? They were transcribed and updated to modern language from those days. And I would suggest picking that up if you're interested in Stoicism and reading what Marcus Aurelius had to say on the subject. Pretty interesting. Right. Yeah, they're unfazed by outside forces. Right. It's yeah, or it's like when somebody says pull up, and then somebody actually does pull up. Like, oh, I'm not afraid of you. Pull up, and then they do pull up. And you're like, oh man, I didn't think you're actually going to do it. I didn't plan for this part. Oh, yeah, I got you. Right. Play to their strengths and use their strengths to better the situation that you're in, you know? Hmm. Yeah. That's difficult to do, right? And we've talked several episodes on self care and all that, but, um, at some point you have givers and takers in this world. And the takers, once they find a giver, will take and take and take until you shut off that source and set that boundary. And like, nope, hey, we were doing this. Think about this in your workplace, right? The boss versus buddy situation. When can you be a both? All right, a boss and a buddy. The answer is yes, you can, but to a certain degree, you have to have clear, defined guidelines in that, and that's where those boundaries that Six just mentioned come into play. There has to be, because everybody, anybody who's been in a leadership role will have everybody under. What can you do for me in your position, right? They come to the leader, hey, what can you get promote me, give me money, blah 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 blah. But eventually, you're going, hey, I'm not getting anything back out of you. I've got you a pay increase, I got you a promotion, but you're not doing the job that you were promoted to. Oh yeah, I just wanted the money. Cool. All right, so shutting that off now. Now you get nothing until you deliver on your end, right? The taker has to give now. Or you could say, hey, me and the boss, we were hanging out, or I guess the boss and I for all you grammatical types. The boss and I, we would hang out outside of work. And it was cool. You'd have a couple of beers, kick back in the driveway, might do a little work from home stuff and just BSing or whatever else. And you're like, wow, this is a great relationship. I've never had this relationship to the boss. But then the boss comes back and takes advantage of that because we're cool outside of work. You can do stuff for me at work, even though you don't agree with it, right? Hey, boss, this is a little shady what you want to do. Oh yeah, but we're friends, right? You got to do it. Oh, well, hold on. So you have to shut that off. All right, cool. I guess we ain't hanging out outside of work. We can be cool, but you're not gonna take advantage of the friendship and try to get me to do some stuff that we probably shouldn't be doing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Marcus Aurelius actually talks about that in his meditations. He talks about, this, this doesn't need to be a blend over from your personal life to your professional life. Those two need to remain separate. Obviously, in certain situations, they'll blend a little bit, but you need to separate those two entities as much as possible because, as Six alluded to, people who know too much into your personal life will try to use that as leverage against you to get you to do something. No. So the less work knows about your personal life, the better off I think you'll be. And in some cases, you're right. I've built some great relationships in my places I've worked over the years. and, know a lot about each other's personal lives. However, it wasn't until recently that, it became the boss versus buddy thing. And I think I did open up a little too much about my personal life to others. And, we're all people, we're communicating, we're having conversations, and nobody's used anything against me, right, in that situation. But hindsight always being 2020, and thinking back after reading these meditations and reading up on Stoicism and going, there definitely does need to be more of I need to set more of a boundary between work and the private. Right. Yeah. Yeah, you almost had to say, am I getting paid for these phone calls? Oh, come on, it's just a phone call. Yeah, but hell's bells, it's Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Like, uh, you know, like, would you want me to come in? No, you don't need to come in, but I want to hold you on the phone for an hour to get all this information. All the information was in the pass down. Yeah, but we didn't read that. So we're calling you. No, it's there. And that goes back into that journaling, right? That Six talked about just a little while ago. It's a pass down, but it is journaling. It's writing down the events of the day and the aspirations and goals that you had. Could have just been for that day. Hey, I came in today and here was our priorities. And we got 6 of the 12 done. Everything else got blown out of the water. And here's an in-depth explanation as to why. So the next people can pick it up and run with it. So when you come back in the next day, you're not picking up where you left off. Although in Six and I's case, that was nearly not the case every day. We came back into right where we left off. But besides the point, that helps writing things down, helps clear your thoughts. And that's something we would do daily is keep a running pass down. I mean, it would start right at the beginning of shift. And it was the last email we sent before walking out the door, And you know why that started? Why that started because we were. It was basically being called liars. You guys didn't do any of that stuff. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Well, I'm telling you, it happened. Well, how do we know? Well, I was hoping you would take my word for it, but it came as one of those. It started as okay, don't believe me? Fine, I'll put it in writing. Oh, you don't think we're properly communicating? Great, I'll write it down and I'll send it to everybody. And there's no way the information can be missed. Yeah, they don't read it at all. But that goes into controlling your environment as well. Don't get mad about it. Hey, well, this didn't happen. Well, I wrote it down. Oh, we didn't read it. Oh, we didn't know what to do because this didn't happen. I wrote it by pass down. This is where we left off, and here's what we needed to do, and here's what parts we needed. Oh, well, I didn't read that. Not my fault. So what I've learned is you wasted the last 12-ish hours because you chose not to read the pass down. Oh, well, it's just too much to read. Again, not my problem. It was there for you, Yeah. Now you could say some people are going, geez, if it was a pass down, why didn't you just talk to him and shift turnover? Well, we didn't have a shift coming on after we were getting off. There was a 6 or 7 hour gap between the next shift coming back on. So that's why we had to write the pass down. Otherwise, it would have been verbal. Of course, even then though, that goes back into if it was a verbal pass down, goes back into listening to understand versus listening to respond. Jesus, full circle on a lot of this. It's almost like we planned it, everybody. We're professionals. Yeah, that's about halfway rusted out. Rust out. Yep. Yeah, what do they say? It's better to rust out than who was it? Was it Theodore Roosevelt that said it was better to rust out than to wear out, or something like that. No, my final thought on this would be I'd be curious to know to our listeners, to you guys out there, who have you noticed in your career that you would consider, after learning about what Stoicism is and what a Stoic is, who in your career have you witnessed embodying those principles? What was the situation and what made you go, wow, that's impressive how they handled that? I'd just be curious to know kind of your experiences and what you've witnessed, and how I can apply it to my own teachings and learnings that I'm doing right now. Bye, everyone.